So in third lesson, we are going to look at multi-conditional selection control structures, which means if you have more than one if statement. So last time we discussed, we can use one if statement or if and else statements. We have looked at it. And then how we could use flowcharts for when you have multiple conditions. And especially, so with grade 9, we are going to look at repetition control structures. Now, the three main control structures, sequence, selection, and repetition, we have completed the first two. The third one we are going to start, right? And then we look at, once we look at the flow charts for repetition, then we are going to look at a scratch programs, right? And then we will also look at nested loops. Nested means we can have multiple loops. That means loops inside another loop, right? And final, we are going to discuss the idea of use of arrays in programming, right? So that's what we are going to discuss in lesson number 3. Right. Now, the very first thing is to look at the simple selection. This part we have already done. In a flow chart, we have a toss a coin. We know there are two outcomes. It could be head or tail. So we can ask a question, okay, whether it's a head. If you say yes, you know that it's head. If you say no, then it's tail. So this can be put into scratch programming like this. So we can say the toss a coin and then we can get which side land on. Depend on answer. If the answer is head, then you're going to say head. Otherwise, you are going to say tail. Like so, simply this part, we have this diamond shaped block to represent the selection, and that selection is converted in Scratch as a if statement. So if it is yes, then you are going to execute this one. If it is a no, that means else part, then you are going to execute this one. So this part we have already done, right? Now, when you have selection with many options, that we need to know, right? For example, tossing a dice. You know, dice, you have 6 faces. So in this particular case, you have to look for 6 different values. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, and it could be 6. You have 6 options. Now, when you have 6 options, you can notice how many selection you have to do. Yes, Seniru? How many selections?
6.
Here, how many selections are there?
5.
5, right? So if you have 6, because with 1, you can check 2, right? Now, for example, you check whether the value is 1. So there are 2 answers, yes and no. If it is 1, then you are going to say 1. If it is no, then you are going to ask again 2. Right? Then you are going to say 2. No, you ask whether it's a 3. Yes, it's 3, otherwise. So when you have 5, so we know that if you say yes, then it's 5, else, then it's 6. So which means when you want to select 6, right, compare 6 different values, you need 5 selections. So you can see you can use 5 selections. So very important thing to know. Right? Now to understand, I would like to give you this problem. I want you to think about getting a temperature from a person, or you ask temperature, and depend on the temperature, let's say it's a temperature of water. We know the water states depend on the temperature of water. Now, if temperature is negative, then water is in ice state, isn't it? If it is between 0 to 100, we know that it's normal water state. But if it will go beyond 100, then it will be a gas or steam, you can say. So we have three options. So how many selections you need, Dhananjay?
2.
Yes, you need two, right? Okay, shall we try to draw the flow chart first? Can we try to draw the flow chart? So you got a temperature, right? So this is what I want you to try. So I want you to draw a flow chart to get temperature of water and display the state of water as ice, water, and let's me say steam. Right? How do you draw? How you're going to say draw? So first of all, you start with, isn't it? You are going to say start, isn't it? So you are going to say start. Then what are you going to do?
Measure the temperature.
Ask what's the temperature.
Yeah, simply you can say, okay, input, get, whatever. So usually we can use input or get, or you can say ask. Simply ask is actually implementation given in Scratch. So simply I can request, right? So let me take this. So I'm going to draw uh, right. Now I can ask, okay, get, you can use any name, get input, whatever. So I can say get temperature. So you get the temperature. So then what are you going to do? You got the temperature. So I will give you the state as well. Now these are the things. If the temperature is less than 0, then state is ice. If it is between 0 to 100, it's in water state. It's greater than 100, steam. And now tell me, what is the next step? Tenhiru? You now get the temperature. What do you have to check?
If the temperature is less than 0, say ice.
Yeah. So first of all, you ask whether it's less than 0. Good. So we can have, right? I can ask whether the temperature I can ask here is, I can ask is temperature less than 0? We can ask like this. So I don't have enough space here, so you can take down, but it should be inside this. You can ask whether it's a less than 0. If it is less than 0, what should happen now? You have two possibilities. One, it should be if it is yes. Other one, if it is no. Tell me what should happen if it is yes.
Water is in ice state.
Yes, exactly. So we can say ice. You can simply say, right? You can display it as ice. If it is no, then what do you have to do?
Is the temperature greater than 100?
Good. So the next one is, you can ask the other question. So you can ask is temperature. I will type, better to type. Is temperature greater than 100? If it is yes, then what are you going to
Yes.
display? Yes. Greater than 100, if it says yes,
Steam?
it should be steam. So this should be steam. Then if it is no, then what is the output?
Water.
Yeah, it should be water. So this should be water. So this should be water. And with that one, we can end. And then we can connect all these points to the end. So I didn't draw the end here. Right? So you see that. So we can write or draw a flow chart for when you have multiple selections. The important thing to remember is when you have 3 different values, then you have to have 2 selections. If you have 6, then you need 5. Okay. So you better take down this because we are going to do some work. And then once you finish taking down, please let me know. So we can start with ask in temperature. So we can take ask what's the temperature, right? And we know that we have to get it to a variable because it's easier for us to work with instead of using answer. So the very first step you should do, create a variable. So I'm going to create a variable, let's say temperature. So now what I have to do is I will get the answer and I have to store this and the temperature. So from here, we can take the answer. Now we know the temperature value. Okay. Can you tell me what is the next one?
If temperature is lesser than 0.
Yes, so you have to go for control, get a selection. Now here is the selection. And then we have to know the operator. We are going to check whether the temperature, right? That is, we have to take it from the temperature variable. We will check whether it's equal to 0. If it is less than 0, what is the output scenario?
Ice.
Yes, we have to say ice. So how do you put which block I have to go for?
Looks and
It's
say.
yeah, we can say okay. So we can say okay, ice. I'm going to say ice. Else part, now what should I do, Dhananjay?
Another if is how to do?
Yes, we have to use another if else. So I can use another if else here inside the else part. And this time I'm going to ask what? Whether the temperature greater than 100. If it is greater than 100, Senhiru, what should we put here?
Steel.
Yes, we have to say steam. So I can say steam. Else, we can say water. Now let me finish this by putting this one. So now when I press this one, it will ask the temperature. Let me give -5. Okay, it says ice. Again run. Let me put 25 degrees. It says water. Run it again. Let's say 105. Right? It says steam. Right? So this is called selection inside another selection. So in this part, we are going to talk about the repetition. Right? Repetition means you are trying to execute 0 more times. So in this particular case, we have a number 1 variable and we check whether it's less than or equal to 5 and then you print the number. And finally, you can add 1 to the number. Okay. Now let's try to implement this stretch, right? Shall we go there? So I'm going to go back. Let me say this. So I'm going to say new, okay. So how should we put? We have to create a variable, right? Number. So I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to say its number. So I'm going to put number here. Something has gone wrong. So let me open it again from the beginning. Well, let's create a variable. I'm going to say number. And you start with 1, right? The number is 1. Your number is 1. Now you have to look at for different repetitions. Then we can take a loop. There are many loops available. You can select one of them. Okay. Now what we should do? We have to check. Now, for example, here, there are multiple loops. If you need to do 5 times, actually, you can use this one. You don't need anything like this. Or else you can have forever. It will keep on running it. Or you can use repeat until. All these are loops. But work in a different way. Now, for example, if you want to repeat this 10 times, you can simply say 10 times. And let's say I'm going to say my variable. And then, so I had to put 5 because I want to put one side. So we can say, okay, change the number by 1. See what will happen when you click it. So it says x1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this one is repeat, right? So the same thing I'm going to do another way using repeat until. Right now here the difference is whenever condition is false, this is going to execute. And the condition actually should be false in repeat until. So that means we have to check whether the my variable is greater than 5. So we can put these two inside, right? And then you have to set my variable here. Now, if you rerun it, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all. The other one is forever. So it will keep on working on the problem. So if you want to print something, keep on working. So you can use, this. Okay, so that's all. With that, we discussed the repetition as well. Right. So in this case, yes, you go, right? So in Scratch, actually, you have to implement with the opposite one, right? And then here, another example. Here we have a water pump to fill the tank. You start with operating the water pump. Water will flow to the tank. We will check the tank is full. If you say no, then again you water flow. So if it is a full, then you are going to stop. Right. Another one, making attendance. So you call student's name and then you check whether student is present. So this is selection, yes and no, right? And then finally you ask whether there are any more names to be called. If it is yes, you go on to repeat again. Several repetitions are there. Okay. So these are the repetition controls in Scratch. So first repetition is definite number. So when you say repeat 10, it will repeat 10 times. So it will repeat 10 times. So now I will go back to Scratch program, right? I'm going to select new. Let me share the screen. So I'm going to, print numbers from 1 to 10. So anyway, we can start with some variable. So let me use existing one. I'm going to say, okay, my variable, I'm going to say 1, the first one. Then I'm going to repeat 10 times. Within 10, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say my variable for 2 seconds. And then I'm going to change my variable by 1. So what happens? So you start with 1. And then you are going to print 1. Then you change 1, which means now it's 1 plus 1, it becomes 2. So when you click on it, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4. Likewise, it goes up to 10. Right? We can finish it off with the top. A quick question. If I want to print numbers from 1 to 100, what should I do?
Repeat 100.
Exactly. So I will put 100. I'm going to change this, otherwise I will say 0.1 seconds. Let me click. It goes to 100. Good. Dhananjay, I want to print odd numbers from 1 to 100. What change I should make to this? Now it will print numbers from 1 to 100. Now instead of 1 to 100, I want to print only the odd numbers. What changes I should do in my code? Cheniru?
Change my variable by 2.
Exactly. Because right now you start with 1 and every time you are going to change the my variable by 1. So that's why when you print 1, you will get 1 and then 2 and then 3 and so on. The change. So to have odd numbers, you can have simply 2. But then again, this will go 100 times, right? It will not end up to 100. It go 100 times, right? Let's see. So if I run it, it goes on like this. It will not end up with 100 because it will repeat 100 times. So hopefully it will go up to 199. Yes, it will go up to 199. Okay, Dhananjay. Now I don't want to print odd numbers. Dhananjay, I want to print only even numbers. What change I should do to this code?
Set my variable to 2.
Exactly. So the starting point, if I put 2, now if I run it, yes, it will print even numbers. Good point. So remember, when you are making repetitions, there are 3 important parts. So the start, increment or decrement, or how many times the loop repeats, are very important ones if you are using loops in your programs.
Excuse me, sir.
Yep.
So if we want to prime numbers, then what we want to do?
Okay, good question. Now, what do you mean by prime number? The definition of prime number?
That number only divisible by and 1.
Okay, so how can I find whether the number is a prime or not? Cheniru? Finding prime numbers. So what values we need?
Numbers which only have two factors.
Yes, 2 factors, 1 and another number, right? So you have to keep on dividing the number. Let's say you are trying to find prime numbers between 1 to 100. What you should do? You have to check, right? You have to check whether the number is divisible by the values. If it is divisible, then it's not a prime, right? Okay, to make the program, you have to write a couple of steps. So first thing is you have to divide. So for example, you take a number and then you try to divide from all the other numbers. Okay, now since you have asked the question, right? So let's see how we can create. Now I'm going to simplify the problem, right? I'm going to ask a number. Okay, I will start like this. I'm going to ask a number, right? To answer Dhananjay's question. Okay, give a number. I'm going to start with this one. Now, given a number, how do you know whether it's an even number or odd number? Let's start with that one before we go into prime.
If a number is divisible by 2, it's even.
Okay, so how do you decide this? What do you mean by divisible? Which one? Operator, which one we have to use? Let's say I'm going to get the answer to this one, my variable. Now, how do I know the number in the my variable, whether it's an odd number or even number?
Number divided by 2, then one remaining, that is odd number.
Yes, exactly. So how do you test in Scratch? Which operator I have to use? How do I know? Yes, you have to use a mod operator. In mod, what happens? Let's say we have a number 3 divide by 2, it will give you the remainder. So that is 1. If you put 4 here, divide by 2, remainder is 0. If you put 34, remainder is 0. 41, the remainder is 1. So what I have to check? I have to check what? We have to check what? We have to check whether this is equal to 0.
0.
Yes. So I'm going to put my variable. So I get the variable and then I will divide by 2 and I will check whether the remainder is 0. Right? So I have to use the if statement. Now, if I will get whatever my answer, divide by 0. If it is 0, remainder is 0. Yes. It's a
Even number.
even number. If it is not, then it's a odd number, right? So if give a number now, let me put 5 and it says odd number. Right? Let me rerun. Let me give 20. It says even number. Now, how do you find prime numbers? Now, this is even not prime numbers. How do you find? It's not an easy program, but you can do it still. How do you find the prime numbers? You have to divide. Now, let's say you want to find whether 100 is a prime number. How do you check? You are getting a number now, and then you have to check whether the number is prime. What is the definition of prime number? Yes,
No, only have two factors.
only have two factors. Either it should be divisible by that number or 1, isn't it? Right? Then it's a prime number. So how many times? Let's say I get 100 now. Let's say I'm getting 100. How do you check whether 100 is a prime number? Remember that. You have to check. So 100, whether it's divisible by 100, yes. 100 divisible by 99, no. Likewise, you have to check the divisibility. I will write the program since you are curious. See whether you can understand. But this is what I'm going to do. So I'm get a number and I'm going to put it a variable. Is this okay? So what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to divide, right? So I'm going to create another variable. I will explain why. So I'm going to create a variable is prime. I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to say set is prime is 1, I 0. So idea is we are going to assume that this is not a prime number. Right? So we can say, okay, we'll put 1. So now if you say 1, let's assume that it's prime number. So I'm going to get a number from the user. So this is what will happen. So it will ask a number. Let me say 100. Yes. So that's all what will happen. Now what do you have to do? We have to check, right, whether this number is divisible. We have to repeat this. How many times you have to repeat? I will explain why. So I'm going to get this one. So I'm going to get a repetition. So I have a control. And then I will repeat. For the time being, I will say how many times? My number times. I will explain. Then I'm going to change this. So I'm going to say my variable. If you put 100, what will happen? How many times it will repeat?
100 times?
100 times, yes. It's 100 times. So each 100 time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide. Right? I'm going to divide. Right? Like this. How I'm going to do? I'm going to get the my variable, right? And then I divide by, okay, I need a count as well, another one, because I'm getting, I have to, this is my variable. I need another counter variable. So let me put the counter variable. I will create another variable. I will explain why. I'm going to say factor. Right? And then I'm going to set the factor to my variable, right? Let me say my variable. No, this will be from 2. We'll start with 2. Right? Okay. Then I will put a factor here. Right? So you divide by 2, right? First. And then you one more time. Okay. I have to think about it later. I'm going to divide by the factor and I'm going to check with a 0. That means you get a number, you first divide by 2. If it is divisible, you know that it's not a prime number. So I'm going to say, okay, it is not a prime number. So I'm going to say its prime is 0. If it is divisible, right? 0 is that one. And then I'm going to change factor by 1. I'm going to remove this one. I will do this 10 times for the time being, right? Let me put this. Now let me start with the 100. Okay, finally, after ending this one, if it is still, if the prime number is prime is 1, no change. Till if it is 1, then we are going to say prime number, say prime number, right? Or else we are going to say, right, not a prime number, right? Let's see what I'm going to do, right? I will explain this, right? Let me run this, run. Now let me give 100. Is it a prime number or not? 100.
No.
Yeah. So what happens when I put 100, it will try to divide by 2. So when it divide by 2, what will happen, right? Yeah, it will be 0. The prime number will be 0. If it is 0, then it says not a prime number. So see what will happen when I put 100. It says not a prime number. So if I put 99, what will happen? Yes.
It's that prime number?
99 means it's divisible by 3 now.
No, so it's not a prime number.
Yeah, it's not a prime number, right? It says not a prime number. Give me a prime number, will you? Smaller one?
3.
Yeah, 3. It's not a prime number, right? So let me say, the problem with the 3 is this is the repetition time we have to change. If it is a 3, it should run only for one time. It should not go up to that one. So that means we start with 2. Then we have to say, okay, the value number of times it will repeat should be, right? Number of times it should be the my variable minus 1. See whether you can understand. Sorry. I know this is a bit difficult, but it is good that you have asked. So let me try to, put minus 1. Smaller number, otherwise, okay. Now we can try. Now let me run. If I put a 3, right? Three, then it should be 1, right? So it should be 2 there. Yeah. 3. Let me put 3. It says prime number, right? About 4? Not a prime number. 5? Prime number. 6? Not a prime number. You see? Now, if you want to print prime numbers, instead of asking, now tell me what should I do now? Now you should know. Now we know. Let's say I want to print prime numbers between 1 to 100. What should I do?
Repeat
More.
100.
It's not only repeat 100 times. Yes, you can say repeat 100 times, but you have to use my variable, right? My variable. So I'm going to do like this. So let's say I need repeat, right? Let's say I need 10 prime numbers. So I will set my variable to 3, right? So I'm going to put is 3, right? So with 3, it will say whether it's a number. So I'm going to say, I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to change a little bit. So I'm going to use a join operation, right? So I'm going to say this part, prime number. I'm going to say this like this, is what is my variable? I'm going to say it's a prime number. I'm going to make a duplicate. Is not a prime number. So I'm going to put this because I'm going to print a number, and then so I'm going to find I'm actually setting this, and then I have to change my variable by 1. At the end, I have to change this, right? Now let me run this and see. 3 is a prime number, 4 is not a prime number, 5 is a prime number, 6 not a prime number, 7 prime number, 8 is not a prime number, 9 is not a prime number, 10 is not a prime number, 11 is a prime number. You see? Yes, I have to put a space here. So how do you put a space? I don't know whether I'm putting space will work. Yeah. So actually I can, instead of just putting this, I can have only a if, so that I will print only prime numbers. Right? So now in this particular case, if I run it, so let's run 100. Yes, exactly. Let me run 100. So you see the computer will take some time, right? Did you get the logic? The most important one is getting the logic. Now, since you have asked this, I actually developed this. But the logic is simple. We are going to divide from 2 to up to that number. That's all I did. Now, which number we are getting is still? What was the last one? So if you want, you can, instead of say, if you just say, what will happen? It will end up with this one, right? So let's say, Sensi looks. If you just say, what will happen? It will not erase then, right? Yeah, let's see. No, it won't go that speed. Yeah. So let me put 1,000. No, 10,000. I'm not really sure whether they are the prime numbers, but you can check. Now you see now it's getting slow now. Why it is getting slow? Because once the numbers get real large, you don't have that many prime numbers, isn't it? Interesting, no? Okay, you can think about this. They are actually advanced algorithm. You don't need like that many times. But this is simply one way to create simple prime numbers. Okay, I think we'll stop for today. Maybe you could try as a homework. Don't remember memorize this answer, but try. The idea was simple. What I did, I divide the number starting from 2. And if the number is divisible, then it's not a prime number. If the number is not divisible, then it's a prime number. So that's all what I did actually. Right. Okay, then we'll stop for today. You can go through the note again. What we were discussing is checking on the repetition. Now, actually, in this example, we have used repetition, selection, right, to find out prime numbers. Okay, then we'll stop for today. And next week, I'm going to continue from this. Okay, thanks then.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.